what is failed back surgery syndrome? I've never even heard of this, and it sounds horrifying.
In the simplest sense, it's just persistent back pain after surgery. So it is a technical diagnosis.
Yeah.
More formally known as post-laminectomy syndrome, which is referring to a particular back surgery that is often done.
Okay.
And so it is a little legitimate and legitimate diagnosis. However, as you mentioned at the outset, it is a bit of a scary term.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes a diagnosis, you know, seemingly innocuous, seemingly just whatever, it's just a label. It's just a diagnosis.
Right.
Usually when you think on it a little more, they carry more weight. And so something like failed back surgery syndrome, I can't imagine being happy with that label.
Yeah. I mean, back surgery in and of itself is such a scary concept. To have it fail sounds even worse. And then to have it fail in such a way that you consistently have back pain enough to take a large amount of Tylenol daily, that's a big deal.
Yeah. With some of the commentary here doesn't really apply to the way that Eric framed it.
Yeah.
But I thought it was very interesting that over the last several years, clinicians have tried to do away with that terminology.
Fair enough.
Just because it's not always the most accurate.
Right.
Again, it has that sort of failure stigma attached to it. And it doesn't really always help to clarify what the underlying issues are.
Okay.
And often there's not one underlying issue. So.
Right. Because it's a syndrome. So it's a set of symptoms.
Yes. But failed back surgery syndrome it doesn't really do much in, answering the following questions. Did the surgery simply fail to relieve the symptoms, which is
right. That's probably what it sounds like.
Right. Did the surgery exacerbate what symptoms already existed, or did the surgery itself cause new symptoms?
Wow.
And so with that, and again, I tend to do this, you kind of get caught up in terms. What's this actually saying? Where did this diagnosis come from?
Right.
Can a patient actually do anything with being told that that's their diagnosis?
Yeah.
So again, the clinicians are, in a good-hearted way trying to pivot away from that. So what they've suggested is a more broad term that just simply calls it persistent spinal pain syndrome.
Okay.
And so there's two types. And so it will include what we mentioned, did the surgery actually cause a new problem?
Right.
Did the surgery just not work that well? What were the expectations of the surgery? Did you really expect that this surgery was going to be the one that got rid of every one of your back pain symptoms?
Right.
You know what I mean? So it just forces this new way of framing it can kind of help improve the mindset that the patient has. It can help improve the realistic expectations of a given procedure, and it can help better guide the treatment. Because if you're told that, hey, this back pain is caused by this surgery, we don't know if it was the back pain that caused your surgery. It might have been.
Right.
The individual is just going to say, well, unless I get another surgery, or if it wasn't for this surgeon that botched the surgery, seemingly, that how are we going to move on from this? So not to get lost in that, not that Eric cared for my commentary around failed back surgery syndrome. I just think it can be helpful to understand where this stuff comes from.
So what's the new term?
The new term is persistent spinal pain syndrome.
Persistent spinal pain syndrome. PSPS.
PSPS. And there's type 1 and type 2.
Okay.
So
what's the other type you mentioned?
So type 1 is technically there was no surgery. Symptoms.
So it includes people who haven't had spinal surgery.
Right.
Who diagnoses this?
I guess your doctor, after the surgery, if depending on how much time goes by and what the, sort of their metrics of outcomes that they're looking at, they can then say, hey, so-and-so post laminectomy syndrome or whatever. And then that kind of.
Well, you hear people with back pain all the time.
Right.
And you always advise people, don't go on WebMD and start typing all your symptoms, because then you'll get this diagnosis of.
Yeah. Failed back surgery syndrome feels like one of those.
Yeah.
You start easy to start researching some things on your own.
Yeah, and
landing on that and then being
you're moments
just
away from
doomed.
being a quadriplegic because you read it on the internet. So, okay. So there's the two types. The type 1 is the one that doesn't involve any surgery at all. Type 2 is the one he's talking about where he had surgery and for whatever reason,
Right.
he's got this persistent pain now.
Is it indirectly related to the surgery? Is it direct, indirectly or directly related to the surgery? It's just
Okay.
always very hard to say.